wants to tame me. You can't catch me on the run, cause I'm gone, yeah. I blaze trails, set fire to what's behind me. No, I'm never looking back, I'm on the run. I could only ever be what I'm made to be. It feels good when I'm living on the edge. Watch me now, roll like thunder, gonna shake the ground. Can't stop me now, I don't give up and I won't back down. I'm a force of nature, can't be contained. I got lightning running all through my veins. Watch me now, watch me now.
Hi, I'm Wyatt Milam. I'm from Canova, West Virginia. When I'm back home, you'll find me at my local Par-Mar store.
We have that gold and blue pride at your local Par-Mar store. We are coming to your neighborhood soon. West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, we have you covered. Download the Par-Mar app and sign up for the Par-Mar rewards card. Food, gas, groceries, and more. We are gold and blue proud, and we are Par-Mar stores.
If there's not a Par-Mar store near you now, there will be soon.
Northern Eagle Distributing, proudly serving Anheuser-Busch products to West Virginians. On September 2nd, for the WVU versus Penn State football game, the WolfMan's Call is going to be going live for a pregame at the Pallet Bar in Scott Depot, West Virginia. There'll be 3 ways to watch this. One in person at the Pallet Bar starting at 5 o'clock, and the broadcast will go at 6. Or you can watch it from the WolfMan's Call Network at one of the fine establishments. Or also you can watch it at the Voice of College Football. That's West Virginia's Voice of College Football. If your favorite place, doesn't have it and you want to watch it, tell that proprietor. Go ahead and sign up for the WolfMan's Call Network at wolfmanscall@gmail.com. Again, that's wolfmanscall@gmail.com or at West Virginia VOCFB. You're not going to want to miss the action, and it's all coming to you from the WolfMan's Call. Phil Breakdown, baby. September 2nd, starting at 6 o'clock. Get signed up. Boom!
Coach Neal was here, which is always neat. Appreciate him being here, and had a group of guys here that he was able to sit with. I didn't get to visit with them because we had a lot going on, so I apologize on that. But it was good to see him.
And hello and welcome to the WolfMan's Call. It's Tuesday. It's August 22nd, and we're getting it every day closer, getting fired up. Really excited about this, and you can't blame us because we're Mountaineer fans. We have all these hopes going into this season, and just really excited about that. Now, you just saw a clip from Neal Brown in his press conference yesterday, because we always tell the truth here at the WolfMan's Call. And Doc Bezos was on the show yesterday, and we brought up the fact that, hey, there's no acknowledgement there except by Ren Baker, the athletic director. And did not go over well at that point. Not a big deal, just didn't go over well. It didn't sit well. And Neal Brown, again, he went ahead, and what did he do? He apologized. So, it sounded like he apologized. He has stuff to do, so there's no doubt about it, and that's okay. At least he acknowledged it, so we give credit where credit is due. But don't ever forget, donors are never more important, at least in appearance. Okay, let's say, not that they're not more important donors, because they're going to run the money, but you don't want to ever have that look like an appearance than former players that built that ship, built that rock. Okay, that's all I'm going to say with that. And, it's nothing good. I just want to get it out of the way because we're going to have a lot to do today. I have today a tape from Tom Bradley, defensive coordinator for over half his years at Penn State, 33 years. He was defensive coordinator at UCLA. He was assistant head coach here at Dana Hogerson at WVU. He was interim coach when Joe Paterno retired and he got Penn State to that tough time. He was the guy. He's always the guy. Well, he is going to be on today, and we're going to go ahead and get him up here in a second. And I taped that. And first of all, I'm hoping we have Mike Dunlap here. Now, Mike is a guy I want to bring on here. I'm hoping that it looks like he's good right now, that he's backstage. But Mike is a guy that has been getting dialysis for the last 4 years, I think, 3 years, that he's getting it 4 times a week and 4 hours at a time. And we've just been sitting there. He's a brother. He's a Mountaineer brother. And he needed a kidney, and a guy that I put it on a video, he was a hometown hero in Charleston for the good works that he did. And so we've been just trying with Daryl Talley and again, the brotherhood of Mountaineer football. Well, Mike is finally a kidney came up, and blessed as he was to receive that kidney, he went and found out through this whole transplant process that he has some heart issues with his valves and needs open heart surgery. So we've started this GoFundMe campaign. And with all that being said, I want to bring Mike on here so y'all get to know him, because he ran the College Football Foundation Hall of Fame for West Virginia chapter. He's done a lot, always doing something for somebody, and a true Mountaineer. Mikey, are you there, buddy? Hello.
I'm here, Dale. Thank you.
Yeah, man. How you doing, bro?
Well, I tell you, it's been an ordeal, man. It really has. This is the 24th will be a month I've been in the hospital.
Oh, a month. Wow. Have you had any, you've got your kidney transplant. How is that reacting?
Actually, the best way I can put that in perspective, Dale, is by numbers. Mm-hmm. And the first number I'm going to tell you is called creatinine. And creatine, and the nominal number is 1.3. Mine was 8 before surgery. Today it was 1.3, so it's perfect. BUN, optimum number is 25. Mine was 90. Today it was 31. And maybe the most important one is kidney function. Mine was 0, absolute 0, and today it's 71. 60 being the optimum number. So. Knock on wood, it's been a good deal. The kidney's 40 years old. So I've had no setbacks with the kidney, but they did find out I need heart surgery. So
yeah,
rain support.
Hey, listen, brother, but you know what you are, man? You're a doggone warrior, man. And you always have been. And that's why I wanted to bring you on this show to come on here and talk about it, because I know that as much as you've been through, how much you've helped people, you're still up there fighting. You're still caring about being a Mountaineer, man. And, that's why I wanted to do this GoFundMe and get the Mountaineer Brotherhood there. I know you're trying to raise $10,000. You're at $3,000, close to $3,000 now, but we got to do more, right?
Yeah, it's really for the, for example, I'm going to be making multiple trips to Cleveland. This last trip was over $3,000. Hotel rooms, food, incidental stuff like that. So it has drained us financially. Yeah. And I hate to ask, but at the same point, I think I've done a lot for people in the past, and so maybe it's my turn. And I've had a great support. Great support from Mountaineers, Dave O'Black, Daryl Prue, guys like that. Of course, Daryl Talley. Daryl came to see me in the hospital in Cleveland, and that was a hoot, man. You know how he is.
Can you tell that? Can you tell that? Can you tell that story or no?
Well, nothing major. Just he
was funny.
He called me one day and he said, "I'm going to bring you a corned beef sandwich." I said, "Daryl, I can't. I cannot." At that time, Dale, I could not even turn over in bed. I was weak as a kitten. It's a very strict diet. He said, "I'm bringing it anyway." I said, "Daryl, you cannot do it." So I got to thinking about it, and I asked the doctor. I was craving watermelon because I couldn't eat very much of it while I was on dialysis. So I called him back and said, hey, he brought me 2 pieces of watermelon and a bag of cherries. And, first class guy, deserves to be in Canton, but a great friend.
Yeah, and you're part of that whole campaign that I've kind of started working with you guys about for in Canton, Ohio. Gerald Talley, he's been in the NFL Hall of Fame. But what a buddy, what a friend, shows up right there. You're in the Cleveland Clinic, man. And as you can see here, Mike, I don't know if you can see on the screen here, but we got you here in the hospital bed, looking perky, because your numbers are looking good. All right, but we got to get you funded here, brother, because I know you got some stuff to do. Got to get some bills to pay. So go ahead, QR code that, people. QR, it takes you right to the GoFundMe page. It's GoFundMe. Y'all know how it works, and it's for a great cause. It's for Mike Dunlap. Again, he's a brother. Before I get you off here, Mike, let's talk a little bit, because I know you're so much into football. Let's talk a little bit about this WVU Mountaineer team. And what do you see? What do you feel following what Neal Brown has been saying in the press conference, coming off of last year? A team that struggled and finished 5-7. They did win the last games.
Yeah, I've never personally met Neal Brown, and I've knew every coach back to Jim Carlin, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But the feeling I get is, first of all, I can't believe how incredibly hard it would be to build a team now. It wasn't like when you and I were kids. Guys leaving, coming, whatever. But I think if he can keep them on the same page and get his signature win, Penn State, Pitt, that he can have an all right season. But, the matter of fact is he has to have a pretty good season, or things are not going to be good. If it were me, I'd pick out about 4 or 5 plays and wear them out. Quit being fancy, strap them up, and run it down their throat, whatever. But that's just me.
That's just you. Yeah, you know what? That's pretty cool, man. And when you say 4 or 5 plays, and why not, right? Because on offense, he talks about having certain things that they can do right now because they're growing. They're young and experienced. A quarterback. You have an offensive line that does have experience. You have wide receivers trying to get on the same page right now with the quarterback because they're all new, and that just takes a little time. And you're going to see it. Although there's talent there. There's talent. And that's the good news. You got a core of running backs.
Yeah, I wonder about the quarterback situation. Of course, you're much closer to it than I am. I don't know how I feel about that. On one hand, you got a guy that's got some experience. If I'm the head coach, if I play him, I play to his strengths. And I would get the young guy in, every 4th series, something like that, have him ready to go. And who knows, he may be that spark.
Well, Neal Brown has always traditionally, when he could afford to, if there's, a closeness there, that not a big drop off in whether it be talent, experience, whatever it is, he likes to bring a quarterback in the 3rd series of each half. So he does like to insert a quarterback. He did it at Troy. He's never had the luxury too much to do it at West Virginia. Maybe this will be the year. We'll see. Getting Nico time to play, I think, is important. I do think that Garrett, what do you say about going to his strengths? You're going to have to use his legs, right, Mike?
Right. I couldn't agree more. And again, one of those 2 guys may put that team on their back. Of course, I'm no offensive coordinator, but I give Green the ball and put him in a run pass option or just a straight run and just wear him out. Make him have to sit in the shower after the game. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do, brother. I do actually understand. Let's go ahead and move it on over to defense. Again, hit that QR code, man. QR code it, baby. Go to the GoFundMe page. Help Mike out.
One more thing, Dale, before you go. First of all, I want to thank you very much. But some people are not crazy about the GoFundMe, so they can also send it to PayPal, which is at polka.66. I'm sorry, polka.66@gmail.com. So either way, and
okay, well, let's go ahead.
I appreciate
66@gmail.com, polka.66 at gmail.com. All right. Now, before I jump,
That's the world famous polka dots.
Oh, well, okay. I got you there. I actually picked that one up. All right. Defensive wise, what do you see in it defensively? What do you want to see him different from last year? Anything new? Who are you looking forward to? Go ahead, man. Lay it on the line real quick.
Again, I want, if I'm the defensive guy and they're in a situation they're in, I want to make sure I have the basics down. I want to have a go-to man-to-man coverage, a go-to zone that I can count on, a couple of blitzes, and make sure that the gaps are covered and just hammer that in. And, as the season goes and you can do more things, put them in. But for the time being, keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Pin your ears back. Because you know what? When you keep it simple, you don't have to worry about thinking about reacting. You can just react. Is that true?
That's true. Very true.
All right.
And again, they don't have a Darryl Talley lined up with outside linebacker that could do anything. And the list is long, but just use him as an example. He played outside linebacker. He was covering wide receivers.
Oh yeah. Well,
so that would be my. What's that?
So now you're talking about a freak show. Darryl Talley.
Yeah, I know.
Very good.
What a great guy.
Well, listen, brother, I got people out here praying for you, man. Mikey out here says, we're talking about you, man. The WolfMan's called GoFundMe. All right, we got the polkadot66 at gmail.com. Got Pod here, Rod Pod Bessick, your brother, Mountaineer brother, man. Question for Mike Dunlap. When playing those 4 years, did you overload with salt pills? All those years of playing, did you ever overload with salt pills?
Salt pills?
Yep.
No,
I don't think so. No. And don't forget this.
No.
Mike Brown says, once a dot, always a dot. I'm going to assume he's talking polka dot.
Absolutely. Number one nickname in the country, as per ESPN.
All right, brother. Well, listen, I'm going to let you go, bro, okay? Take care now. Mike Dunlap, and go ahead, man, and we'll see you later, all right?
All right, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, stay strong, brother. We're right there with you, man. See you. All right, that's Mike Dunlap again. Let's get this QR code up one more time for GoFundMe. You want to hit it? Go ahead. I'm going to tell you what. Dude's a good dude, man, and he fights, and he's helped so many people along the way, and people wanted to do a GoFundMe for him, or now he can say to go with the PayPal. All right, so he's never accepted it before. Well, it looks like $3,000 for a trip to the Cleveland Clinic is a lot of money. So go ahead and you can QR code that. Speaking of QR code, let's go ahead and jump right in. Power Mini rechargers and batteries. It's never buy a AA battery again. I'm telling you, I have these. The kids, they go ahead and they play their games and they just keep recharging them. Never buy a AA battery again. QR code it, man. That's what it's there for, right? And if you go green, that means green. That means, it's good for everything green, not all this alkaline stuff, right? 15 billion tons of alkaline batteries in the dumps every year in the world, polluting the world. No, it's Paul Mini, man. It's really not the batteries. You just don't make them. They're there for life, over 500 times recharging, and it works every time to 95% and greater. Okay, you can't go wrong. Go green, save green, save that moolah. And Artisan Grange Company, switch the dip, man. Switch the dip to hemp. Hemp dip, you can't go wrong. AGC, you can get it at our sponsor here, part of our stores, or you can go to wolfmandip.com. There's no tobacco, no nicotine. It's good, man. It's all just hemp. And I even swallow it, man, because I like it. I sleep a whole lot better when I do. And it's something special. So AGC, man, Artisan Grange Company, hemp dip. Very cool. And last but not least, West Virginia United. Yeah, man, Johnny Cantwell right there. And a united purpose, West Virginia we stand. Would be a whole lot better if we had that as well. What do we got for chats, man? We're going to drop it today after Tom Bradley. This airs. what do we got here? Let's see. Hey, Tommy Bowman. What's up, Bo? You want to be coming on the show here soon? I bet we need to bring you on, brother. And where we go? Let's see. We got here. Wolfman, I have a question. Are you going to be on the coaches show Saturday morning? No, man. I left that over a year ago. Nick's on there, and they do a great job. You got Angelica and the whole gang there. Always been Amanda's on that. Tony's on that. So I know you missed me, but you got it right here, man. I'm doing all the film breakdown right now. So there's no issues with that because you got it here. Wolfman's call, but we sure do love my fellow comrades there, and it was good. It was good for the 10 years. The 10 years on that TV show, it was good. Let's see, Kelly McCourt, what do you got, brother? Yep, go Mountaineers, beat Penn State. Yep, there you go. And what do we got next? Hey, Wolf, nice to see the great running back watching. Tom Bowman. Now, listen, he was a captain as well there with my brother Ronnie, and so it goes way back. This goes way, way back, man. And then you have here, yep. All right, Mike Rollins, praise the Lord. That's right for Mikey. All right. And Kelly McCourt, great news. I know you know that, Kelly. You know what it's like, brother. All right, we're going to keep on going down the line. Now, what I am going to do there, Keith Hawkins. Oh, Hawkeye. Guys, all right, hang in there, Big Mike. Yeah, Keith was there too back when they announced Daryl Talley. We started talking about, we want to try to raise awareness that the king of West Virginia, in my mind, King T, all right, should be in the Hall of Fame, NFL Hall of Fame. He's in the College Hall of Fame. He's in, obviously, WVU Hall of Fame, but he needs to be in the NFL Hall of Fame. Just so you know, in his 12 years, he never missed one game. Now, one game, he missed a game, and he's all-time leading tackler for the Buffalo Bills. The numbers equate out to HOF, NFL. That's for sure. All right. Now, listen, I got this interview that we did here with Coach Tom Bradley, 33 years at Penn State. Man, was something small. He started as a graduate assistant, and he stayed there for 33 years with Coach Joe Paterno and the staff. And he's a fantastic man. And when it all went down and they had to have the transition, he was there. Special guy and very good. He's also came to WVU. He's assistant head coach Dana Holgerson. Then he went and missed the defensive coordinating, so he went back and was out there with UCLA Bruins for a couple of years, and then he finished up his last of his coaching years, 3 years with the Steelers and coaching the DBs there. And so let's go ahead and get started. Now this starts a little bit weird. Let's make sure I got this right. There we go.
We do.
Oh, all right. Hang on a second. Let me make sure I got it. There we go. Let's get this off here. Hide. Woo. Yep. All right, here we go. Years with Penn State, all the way up from a graduate assistant coach to defensive coordinator for most of those years, and then on to interim coach, getting him through the situation, the transfer, and then of course he came to WVU. As assistant head coach, Dana Holgerson, moved on to UCLA for a couple of years as defensive coordinator, and then finished up your coaching as far as right now with the Steelers in the secondary there for 3 years. So obviously you have a lot going on. You're current broadcaster for Penn State. You get to do a show with former coach Jay Paterno, Jay the son of Joe, and you're also on ESPN Radio 970 in Pittsburgh, and doing the pigskin stew. So you got a lot on your plate, and I know you do other stuff as well for the public. But, did I capture it all?
Well, thank goodness the one thing you left out, that you are also on pigskin stew as one of our West Virginia experts. We bring you on to give the expertise for the Mountaineers.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we do, right? Because we got an expert thing, but expertise down so much. But it is because it's cool because you got a Penn State guy, not besides you and Coach Jay. You have a Penn State guy, you have a Pitt guy, and you got a WVU guy. Great show on ESPN Radio 970. Do we know what day it's going to be on this year?
I think it's going to be on Tuesdays this year. You're right. We have Professor Poorman from Penn State, Mike Poorman. We have Dr. Dale Carter from Pitt, and we have you, and gives us expert on all three different schools, which is great, because you guys follow them. You're there day to day and give us some really good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great show, if I could say. I mean, that's just with you guys. We're only a small part, but we are part of the Blitz, and we do enjoy that. So we look forward to that this season. But let's get right to it now, man. It's tough to go to Happy Valley and play as a Mountaineer who's made that trip a couple times. And they actually came out in the losing end, even though it was a very contested game. It is so hard with all the difficulties. What is it? Why is it so difficult, Coach, to play in State College?
I think a lot of it has to do with they probably got the greatest fans in college football up there, and especially it being a night game, getting a 7:30 start this year. It's going to be a little bit raucous up there with the Mountaineer fans and the Penn State fans getting after it. But it's that thing gets going in there. It gets loud. It gets tough for your opponents.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I think about the noise level. There's all these coaches. There's distractions. Now, when you go into any place that's foreign to a team, there's always going to be distractions. But it's just so much more enhanced because I believe that at Penn State it was the toughest place I ever played in when I was at WVU.
Well, we forgot one thing. Penn State has pretty good players too. So that I don't care how loud it is if you don't have the players. But when you got some pretty good players and it gets going up there, it can be a tough place for your opponent.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I did not forget about that. I did that because I remember it very well. But let's go ahead and let's get into the game. Let's go currently here. Last year they were 11-2. They showed great promise. They've moved up. Everybody's saying, hey, this might be the year for Penn State. At least they're going to try to contend for the Big Ten title. Let's go ahead. Before we even start with that, let's talk James Franklin as the head coach. What's he about?
Well, I think Coach Franklin's done a really good job of recruiting this class and putting it together. And it's whatever weakness they've had, they've kind of patched it up through recruiting and obviously the transfer portal. They've done a good job of getting this team ready to go. But like everything else, you got to stay healthy. I think that's probably the big thing that they've done is put this team together.
Absolutely. So when you go ahead and you look at this offense, and you're going to have a youngin, a true sophomore, because he was a freshman last year, played in 10 games last year, threw 50 balls, nice percentages, 5-star Drew Allard. And you look at this offense, it's got to always start with the quarterback, does it not?
True. And one of the great things they did last year that Coach Franklin did and his staff did was they got Drew a lot of work. As you said, Drew's been in 10 games. He's played. This is not going to be foreign to him to be in there playing. And it wasn't all mop-up duty. They got him in early sometimes and got him into it. So that's a big plus for them at quarterback. I think the one thing offensively they've done a really good job, if you look at what they perceive this might be a weakness for them, no longer is. They've got two really strong running backs, very strong running backs, the two young guys, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. But what they've done, as you know, and you've played it, Wolf, is that offensive line. They've really solidified that offensive line. The left tackle stayed. He's going to be an All-American. He would have been a first-round draft, but he ended up staying. And then, you bring in the Hunter Nazard from up in Cornell. He was an All-American there. So this offensive line, I think, is big time, become a big strength for this offensive football team.
Yeah, so true. And I looked at the left tackle, boy. It's not hard to find out why he'd be a first-round draft pick.
He needs to get a nickname or something. His name's hard to pronounce there. We got to get him a nickname. But and I think you've played it, and the one thing that, if everything starts to get a little kilter in a game, if you have the big-time offensive line and you can run the ball, you can settle things down and get it back in your favor again.
What's going on with the receiving corps? Now, let's talk about this, Coach, because you have a true sophomore and Allard. He's got so much talent. I look at his arm, and he throws a really pretty ball, and he's got a great accuracy. Obviously, his 5-star rating is for real. What do you see in him with the receivers? Because they're replacing a couple receivers.
Correct. And, they got a transfer, and Dante Cephas came in, and you got Harrison Wallace and Keandre Lambert-Smith, three pretty good wide receivers. The thing I see in Drew, he reminds me a lot. I've been asked that question. He reminds me a lot of Kerry Collins back in the day. Big guy, strong, stands in the pocket, throws really a good ball, and it's going to be exciting to watch him. He's got a ton of talent, and as I said, the one good thing that'll help him is they will be able to run the ball.
Yeah, they will be for sure. Now we have with them last year. They were 2 freshmen. They were actually the backups after their starter got hurt last year, and they had combined about 2,000 yards. When you think about it, what does that say about them as running backs? And was the offensive line really as good last year as it's projected to be this year?
Well, that's a great question because we were the one thing that they had a little problem last year. Those guys were really good and they pounded some big time yardage. But I think the thing that they now feel good about is they can run the ball when they want to run the ball. I'm not sure last year that they could do that every time when things got a little, when you had to slow the game down a little bit, as sometimes the defense needs a break. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but I think this year they'll be able to do it. These guys they're bigger, they're stronger. Their running game should be excellent. And there is no better friend to a quarterback when you get your running game going, as you know. And now the other team's putting 8 guys in that box and makes it easier to throw the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you break it down, Coach, and when you say you got to run the ball when you want to, and that has a little bit to do with numbers in the box, does it not? But even when the numbers are not in your favor, you still have to have that running edge, that running mentality to go ahead and be successful when running the ball.
Well, I can tell you're an offensive lineman. So you talk about that.
Yes.
But, you're exactly right. You've got to be able to run the ball when they know you're running the ball. And when you can do that, then you've got yourself a pretty darn good offense.
Yeah, there's nothing like forcing your will. And that really goes for both sides of the ball. Because now we're going to actually move over to talk about the talent on the side of the defense. When I'm looking at this, and apparently there's a couple of defensive linemen that would have been involved in the rotation at Penn State that got injured, but it really wasn't the starters. And let's break it down. Let's go from defensive line to backers to secondary, because I think this is what's supposed to be a top 5 defense. We'll find out. We'll all know about it. But let's get your take on it.
Well, here it is. You're looking at, I think a lot of it's going to start with their front 4. They're going to be able to get a pass rush with just the 4 down guys. They're not going to have to bring a lot to get action up front. And I think it all starts up front with number 44, Chop Robinson. Excellent talent. You've got Adiza Isaac, the other defensive end. Those 2 defensive ends, as they now, what I call defensive ends, but people call them edges. They're pretty darn good. You got a linebacker, Abdul Carter, the weak linebacker for them, number 11, who's a really talented football player. And then you topped it off with a corner in Kalen King, who's going to be one of the top corners in the country this year. He didn't. He's a guy that has first round talent. So the defense is very solid. It's strong in the secondary. They've got a lot of guys back. Keaton Ellis is back again. You got Johnny Dixon back. You got Hardy back. I mean, it's a good group of players up there. And I think the Kobe King's the guy's name you want to remember. Their middle linebacker and Curtis Jacobs. Like I said, it's a very talented defense.
Yeah, it seems to be that it's mostly upperclassmen. If not, they have a sophomore too, but they're extremely talented. They're a backer. Let's get it, because this is you're put on your cap right now, your football coaching cap, and you really kind of surprised me when you said that they're not going to bring much pressure because they have a defensive line, which is an average great thinking when you can do that and not have to commit that extra rusher so you can have the cover while still putting on the pressure. But now you have, it looks to me that Garrett Green, the dude, he's 5'11", he's a scrambler. He's a guy that can create problems with his legs. He's very, very talented with his legs. And if you're Manny Diaz, who's his whole time he's been a gambler, he's liked to bring the pressure. And so now you tell me that you feel like that way. That's really cool. I get it. But how is that going to work out with a guy who likes to bring the pressure? And how do you defend a guy that has great legs to extend plays?
Well, it's always back and forth. When I say that, I meant that they're able this year to probably get after it pretty good with just the 4 down guys, which is a nice luxury in playing defensive football
Absolutely. Yeah.
because you don't have to send the extra guy and leave some of your secondary guys hung out to dry. But they've got a good enough secondary if they have to. If they want to put pressure and lock some people down, I think they have that type of secondary. The one thing that really the guy, offensively for West Virginia, who I think is a heck of a football player, is their center, Zach Frazier. I mean,
Right.
to me, he's an All-American guy. He is an excellent football player and someone who, if people don't know his name, will certainly know his name after the end of this season.
Yeah, that's for sure. I really want to go. I really want to get into this. If you got a guy who's going to scramble, and I'm not talking about what Manny Diaz do. I'm talking about what Tom Bradley would do. If you got a guy that can hurt you in the running game, and he likes to take off and run in passing down situations anytime. First read is not there. He tends to want to leave the pocket early. How do you stop that?
But you got to have rush discipline. A lot of times there's an old saying in defensive football: lanes just aren't for cars. Okay. Everybody's got to know their place and where to be. And if you're going to get out of your lane and do something, hopefully it's going to have a positive outcome, because everybody's going to have to be very disciplined and making sure that they keep him in the pocket, because that's the one thing that he really can do. And you hit it on the head. He can get going. He's got good legs. Garrett's got really, he can do that to you. So it's something they'll have to be disciplined about.
Now, if you're the DC, are you putting a spy on him right away, or never, or you're just going to wait and see?
No, I'm not going to put a spy on him right away. I think what you're going to do is really just be, emphasize the discipline in your rush lanes, everybody up front, keeping them in the pocket, condensing the pocket, and making sure that you keep them there.
Is there any theory of containing in the pocket instead of trying to get sacks and trying to create disruption, or just forming a defensive half circle in the rushing lanes, as you say, and hold those hands up? Because
it all works, Wolf, as you know. Sometimes, sometimes you beat somebody. Sometimes it's just the pressure condenses the pocket, and the secondary does a great job. You get that coverage pressure. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. That's not to say they won't take shots, to try to make that happen. But I'm sure they'll be very selective with him.
Okay, and just continuing along with that, because I think college football has really lost a lot of its gap integrity. And by that, I also mean outside contain. With all the crazy stuff they're doing, they're either TFLs that they get as a defense, or they give up 5 or more. That's my whole new philosophy. I think of this new age defense that they're doing. And whether I'm right or wrong doesn't matter, but is contain a big deal in this game for those defensive ends for Penn State?
Yeah, that's what there's no question. I believe it is. I think that's one of the things. I know he's rushed for a lot of yards. He's a talented guy. He can move with those legs. So it's going to be a point of emphasis. But then again, you don't want to slow your guys down from not being aggressive and going to make plays.
Absolutely. All right. So then let's go ahead. How do you see this game of defending Garrett Green from a defensive perspective before we move to the offensive?
Well, I think from a defensive perspective, it's just basically what we did talk about. You want to get pressure, you want to condense the pocket, you want to keep him in the pocket. He's dangerous when he gets outside of that. So I think you're going to have, rush lane integrity. You're going to take your shots when necessary, when you want to bring 5, want to bring 6, however you want to play the game. But it's going to be, a lot of it's going to depend on, what the score is at the time and, what the situation is, how you're going to make your defensive calls.
Right. All right. So let's move into the running game, because supposedly West Virginia has a good offensive line this year, and you have Wyatt Milam at left tackle, who is a Big 12 notable. I think he'll be first team. And you have Doug Nestor at right tackle, and you have some guards, Thomas Remack at left guard, who's very talented, a young guy, very talented. And I think you got 2 guys that can play right guard there at least sufficiently, adequately. So they have a running game. They got some really good running backs, C.J. Donaldson being number 1 of them. And so when you go ahead and you add that in, and Garrett Green can pull the ball, do the read zones, do all that right there, they got to make effective of that. West Virginia's not been able to do that for a number of years. They can do that now. And how do you defend that? in the run game because to me is I want to shut down the running game. And that includes Garrett Green. And I'm going to try to go ahead and make Garrett Green beat me passing because he hasn't a lot of experience and he hasn't proven that he can win throwing the ball.
Well, that's a good thing. You left out one of the guys. I think the LSU transfer is it Cole Taylor, the big 6'7" tight end. Is he half a lineman or a tight end? He's a big guy.
Yes.
I think he's someone to watch. I think I'm glad you mentioned the left tackle, Wyatt Malone. That he say his name, but just watching some tape on him. Very impressed with him. I really like the transfer wide receiver Devin Carter from NC State.
Yeah.
And you talked about Donaldson, in 7 games last year. He's an impressive running back. So I think, a lot of it's going to depend on the situational football in the game, how they want to play the game. It's going to depend on that, how they're going to be calling their plays. I'm sure they have a set game plan going in, but it's going to be adjustable, obviously, at any time.
Yeah, Coach, and I'm thinking about it, is that are you doing anything special to try to stop the running? Because, again, I think they're going to really count on their running game to offset the balance and take their shots when they can with the receivers. Because, you said about Devin Carter, he's good, and then the young guys are good talent, but they haven't had a lot of time to connect. It takes time to gel, and this group of receivers has not had that time. Cole Taylor, I do think, is an exception because he's so tall, you can pick him out anywhere. But regardless, you got to shut down West Virginia's run if you're Penn State defense.
Yeah, Wolf, one of the things that came up, too, was, and maybe you correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't all 3 wide receivers transfers for West Virginia this year?
Oh, they were JUCOs. You had Cortez Bram, who's battling Devin Carter, who was a JUCO, and Jeremiah Aaron was a JUCO. So pretty much, you got Rodney Gallagher, who's a freshman that may get some time. And you got 2 freshmen that may get a little time in the battle, in the rotation.
It's interesting. Rodney Gallagher's name kept coming up when I was talking to some people down in West Virginia. I think he's probably having an impressive preseason camp.
Yeah, that's what Neal Brown has said, and I think that they like it. What I get from him saying here is that the passing game is not right there where it needs to be. So obviously, as the season progresses, we're talking game 1 right now. So if you got to work on your passing game, that can gel more later on in the season. But you got to start game 1. You got to be able to move the ball and run if you want to pass, because you got to go and you got to try to go 3rd and long in passing down situations. That makes it really difficult on an offense that's used to throwing the ball downfield.
That's a nice place to be if you're the defensive coordinator. 3rds and longs are great. But I think, especially playing at Penn State, you're going to want to control the ball. I think their offense is pretty darn good this year and is going to make things a little bit tough because they can do a lot of different things. I think that offensive line, and we talked about their running backs, the one thing West Virginia is going to want to do is control that football and run the ball. I think that's going to be for them the number 1 priority going into this game.
Yep. Well, let's talk about this and flip it over because there's things that people are talking about here, and I think there's a key. Penn State has great tight ends. Now, you have an offensive line that they're all happy with, but I think Penn State really likes 12 personnel. And Coach, how do you defend 12 personnel? Now you're on West Virginia's side, and you're there, and you got these dudes that are tight ends. You got extra gaps now in the box because of the tight ends, and they can catch the ball as well. I mean, you might have one of the best tight ends in the country right there. So, again, how do you go ahead and defend 12 personnel against a team that knows how to work the 12 personnel?
Geez, I didn't know you were going to make me work this hard today, Wolf. I think the thing you said it, Penn State got the good tight ends. You got Theo Johnson, you got Tyler Warren. Okay. They've got a couple of really big time tight ends. The interesting thing to me that's happened in football now, it's not only 12 personnel, which, as you know, is, 2 tight ends, 1 back. A lot of people are now going to 13 personnel, and then you're making your substitutions, and all of a sudden then they spread you out, right?
Yeah.
These guys can play. They can play in space too. It's not like the old days when, they were just big bodies in there. These guys are good receivers too. And I think that creates a lot of problems for people when you can do that, because I substitute my bigger people, and then oh boy, and all of a sudden they're all out in space somewhere, and I've got people playing in space that just aren't comfortable out there in space. So that's where the chess match is. A lot of it will be decided by obviously scoring down and distance and where you are in the football game.
That's so true, and the reason why I bring that up is because I love 12. And you say 13 personnel. I don't think NFL football. Yes, college football has still yet to really fulfill the potential of what a tight end can do in the game. Some schools, let's go Dalton Kincaid, first round draft pick for the Bills this year at 80 some catches, or for Utah. But there's not many of those. There's not many. And I think that the tight end position is truly missed. Not only, specifically in the passing game. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, it's interesting. I think as the college football is evolving, you're starting to see a lot better tight end play, because it's a position that really has created a lot of conflict for people, because you have some guys, you take the success that the Steelers have had with Pat Frymuth from Penn State. Pat's a guy who can be an inline tight end. You can flex him out. They're just not your normal, back in the old days, the guy was mostly a blocker. Once in a while they throw maybe a flat pass or a seam. They weren't as high tech in the pass game, but now these guys can run all kind of different routes and create a lot of tough mismatches, not only on if you got a nickel in the game, but boy, if you have a linebacker cover them and they flex them out, it can create a lot of problems. So I think tight ends now in college football have come in vogue again, and are the way that they're using them, and the type of athlete that's there now.
Yeah, I think the more they see in the NFL, the success, I think it's going to grow. But I've been pumping on that. So that means only means one thing: we have to bring back the fullback. The fullback needs to breathe again. And the ISO coach, bring back the ISO.
Boy, the ISO is the thing of the past right now. But it's interesting, because even those fullbacks now a lot of those guys are really half tight ends too. Mm-hmm. They can line up on the line, they can flex them out, they can do a lot of different things. So, your days of what 21 personnel used to be, I think, are gone. I think now, because what you can get into all the different configurations based on that fullback who's half a tight end too, half a wide, who knows what they are. The skills for those guys is completely different too.
Yeah, that's so true. And okay, so when
but nobody even lists the fullback in their roster. If you look at the depth, it's always 11 personnel. They never. You don't see many where they actually list a fullback.
I believe the fullback's going to return, because I think everything's on the circle, the wheel. What goes away comes back. That's just my belief. Don't know if it will actually happen. But I do miss the fullback in action. I miss what they can do out of that. Whether that be a tight end / fullback, whatever it is, you could do so much with that and make it so much more difficult on people like you wearing that defensive coordinator hat. I mean, it's the more you can do, the harder it is. So let me go ahead and look at this offense of West Virginia as well. As if you could get option into the game. We used to run an ISO. We used to run the sweep. We'd run the counter. We were a power team, right? If you could go ahead, the trap, and run a little bit of option, what does that do to defenses as a defensive coordinator? I have no idea if West Virginia has any idea of doing this. But I just wanted to get this while I have you here. What does that do to a defense when you can run the ball in a power running game, but also add a bit of option to it?
Well, I'll tell you what it causes. There's a little bit more defensive control, I guess, defensive discipline, because now everybody's got to know their option responsibilities too, which creates another. If you can do it and do it, well, and pick your spots right, it can create a lot of problems, because everybody's got to know exactly who's got whom. And if you're not afraid to run that quarterback, that makes life even tougher.
Yeah, for sure. I just remember because we did it with Major Harris with such success, but we also were that power running team. And I think that really adds it, as you said, control. It's assignment, and then you go ahead and in the Big 12, it's assignment, it's alignment. and the defense has got to line up and then understand their assignments. You could do so much in that department. I just think you might have an opportunity with Garrett Green. I wanted to see what your take was on it.
Well, you brought up one of the guys who's very tough to defend in Major Harris, the different things he could do. Garrett Green has that potential too. So that creates a lot of problems for you defensively when you're the quarterback can do so many different things. And Major was a headache for a lot of people with all the skills that he had. I mean, he was as talented as a guy's, playing quarterback that you've seen in a long time.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, so let's move. One last one. I'm not going to move on yet. Here we go. Last question. Last question. How do you see this game coming out and unfolding?
Well, I think Penn State's going to run the football. I think, looking at West Virginia, as I watched them a little bit, and I think one of their problems is they're up front. They play that 3-4. I'm not sure the 3 down guys are where they have to be right now, and I think that's one of the things Penn State will exploit because they're going to try to impose their will on them and run the football and do it early.
Yeah. It's great. You see all this locker room talk and, Pat McAfee, Kirk Herbstreit laughing and West Virginia can win 6 games, all that. All that is really locker room material, locker room board material. And when you look at it, how's Penn State going to treat WVU? Are they going to treat them as a team that's first up? You're excited. You got a big season. You're looking ahead. You think you can compete with Michigan's, the Ohio States. You look at West Virginia, a team that's not supposed to be much this year, according to the experts. How do you approach this game if you're James Franklin?
You come out of the gate flying, ready to go. I think that's one thing. It's West Virginia. I think that Penn State understands the rivalry with West Virginia, playing West Virginia, and all the history in that game over the years. Certainly, I'm sure that the fans are going to be wound up. It's a 7:30 night game in Beaver Stadium in the Valley. I mean, there'll be some blood moving that night, believe me. And and how the openers are. Wolf, you played in a bunch of them. They're exciting no matter what. But especially being West Virginia, a local team, a historic rival for Penn State over the years, and that stadium will be rocking and rolling come 7:30.
Yep, absolutely. You know what? I appreciate your time as always. You're the man. Coach Scrap. let me say this. I want to bring it back though. So we've got to start talking conference alignment sometime here in the near future, and get your take on what's happening in college football because there's so much. And a guy with your wisdom experience who's been through it all has got to see things in such a way that I'm sure a lot of us don't see it that way. So please come back and appreciate this. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm not going to give you my pick right now. I'm going to save it for pigskin stew.
Wow.
Okay. But I'm not going to tell you, but it's going to be something interesting.
The show's always interesting with you, Wolf. Come on, it's every week.
Hey, I'll tell you, as once a player said at West Virginia, they only brought me in here for something to look at. All right. All right, Coach. God bless you, man. Thanks for your time, and we appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Yep, you too. All right. Oh boy, I'll tell you, Coach Tom Bradley, the wisdom. It's just you sit there. And he recruited me back in the day and, got to know him through the years. And I hate to say years and years but it has been quite a few. But I did take that right turn. Instead of going to Penn State, I was heading south. Going to Penn State, left from Buffalo, New York. I went right there. I ended up in Morgantown. And one of the great things in my life was making that right turn for sure. But, boy, I respect the heck out of Tom Bradley. And we're going to have him back on this show. I think he'd be a great addition. I'm doing the Pigskin Stew show with him, as you heard from the Pitt. They got the Penn State guys, and you got Coach, former coach, still call him Coach. I mean, once a coach, always a coach. Jay Paterno, who's just a pretty intelligent, cerebral, because he coached 16 years in quarterbacks. And there's just a lot of wealth in there, a lot of talent. And talking to Coach, I really want to point out the things that I think really is surprising and to the point. And I'm going to go ahead and I dropped the link for everybody out there. If you want to come on, you got to go ahead and you can jump on. All right, Kenny, get your shirt on if you're going to come on, though. That's the only thing I'm going to say. All right? Just kidding. Well, not really, but you know what I'm talking about. Listen, so he's saying here is the offensive line. He really thinks the Penn State offensive line is going to be trouble for the defensive line, which will then affect the linebackers. And then you go ahead, as I talked about, adding in that 12 personnel, those two tight ends. Penn State has excellent tight ends. Like when you look at this right now, and I'm thinking is the running game, and you have those fellas there, the running back, Allen. I mean, they got 2,000 yards rushing. They were both freshmen last year. Their offensive line is what they really think that they've improved. And so when you're looking at the strategies, you got to know this is really going to be a game of winning the line of scrimmage. And that's really going to be on both sides because, you're trying to win. Obviously, the strength of WVU is what? The offensive line, right? The strength of that is the offensive line, the running game. And if you're going to start out with a running quarterback, I don't care if Nico's in there. Nico can run really well too. I don't know what y'all think about, but I know he can. So, but regardless, is you got to have that quarterback. He's got to be involved in the running game. He's got to commit that extra defender that has to go into the box to defend. And the offensive line, and then you have the running backs, obviously, as well. I mean, you're talking, we're going to do a little bit of Neal Brown here in a second in his press conference yesterday, but you're talking about, Justin Jump Cut Johnson, Triple J, right? Or you can say Justin Jr., whatever one you want, but he's Triple J. But he's been the most consistent. Now, you're taking a C.J. Donaldson, who to me, I think he's like 240 or something, high 230s, low 240s. That's a man. That's a man now. I mean, that's not a child, man-child as he was last year. No, that's just a pure man. So the offensive line, the tight end, you're talking about Cole Taylor from LSU, the transfer. And you're talking about Traylon Davis from Ohio. I think he's a redshirt sophomore now. And so we're going to do our own two tight ends. And I'm going to tell you what they can't do. And last year, there was too much of the split zone or the guard H, being the guard and tackle, pulling counter, because teams knew it. So when you see the Neal Brown saying, hey, he's going to change this stuff up, and then you have Chad Scott as the offensive coordinator, it is so important. But Garrett Green, the quarterback position, has to be a huge factor. It has to be a threat to take it around the edge. Remember that Oklahoma game when Skylar Howard was playing? Now, West Virginia guy took it on the chin that game. But I remember when Skylar came around and did the zone, and he ran 50 yards against the Sooners in Oklahoma at, the Palace on the Prairie, and it's probably been kind of that long since we've had a quarterback that can really pull it. I mean, Will Greer's, he's not going to pull it much. And, Deggy, Kendo, all those guys were not going to pull it. I mean, I prayed for them to pull it. I remember the one time Deggy pulled it. I was on a goal line. And that dude from Baylor, I think it was Baylor, he just ran right for the running back, and Deggy walked in. I'm thinking, my golly, man, if we could make more of that. But regardless, Garrett Green, Nico Marchio, they can do that. So it doesn't matter what quarterback's in there because they both can be that threat. Now, what I'm surprised about, as I said in that interview from Coach Bradley, he said that, hey, they have the 4 defensive linemen. Well, they can cause a lot of pressure problems for sure. There's no doubt about it. But I think when you have a guy like Garrett Green, if you shut down the run, that's what you're going to try to do as Manny D as the defensive coordinator. But I think you got to bring a little bit of heat just so you confuse a young quarterback. And you try to make him, I mean, that's all that Bill Belichick, and I think that Coach Bradley's being a little nice to us on the thing because I believe that, you got to go ahead and disrupt. And so I think there's going to have to be runs, as we say, get the running game established, but you're going to have some short, quick passes for Garrett Green. Okay? He's not going to be great in the pocket against the pass rush of Penn State. I don't think. All right, I'm saying, is this what I'm anticipating? So what do you got to do? You got to go to his strengths. And so if it's that screens, slants, it's how about the fade? He can throw a fade ball, over the top. It's 3 steps, boom. Go ahead and do it. So there are things you can do with Garrett Green, and if you're with that, you're gonna sit there and drop him back in the pocket against 4 tough defensive pass rush, and then they're bringing some heat and backers. And the other thing too is thought it was really interesting. I said, "Do you spy Garrett Green?" And he's like, "No, you don't spy him yet. You know when you spy him? When he hurts you." I think that's what he was getting at. If he hurts you, you're not going to start off spying him. So again, that's to the advantage of West Virginia. And I think I think that's what the defense is going to do. But then you got to go ahead and think about how the Mountaineer defense is going to go ahead and play this offense. Now, Drew Allard, all right, we're talking about, he is a big 6'5", good-looking young dude for a quarterback. You like it. But he's not terribly immobile, but he's not a running quarterback. He's not a running quarterback. Now, I'm not sure about his pocket presence. That has nothing to do with running quarterback. A pocket presence is if you can shift around in there, and not that you're running, but you're just buying a little more time. And I think that's the big key. What I think that with Drew Allard, the Mountaineers going to have to put some pressure on him because he's a big man, but he's not that runner. And this offensive line, that's what worries me. 2 tight ends worries me on this defense. 2 tight ends. This defense is not deep. It does not have 2 deep, in my opinion, ready to go at Penn State. All right. Does not have it. Now we're going to talk here, Neal Brown. We're going to get at it. Is there anyone here that wants to go ahead? I'm looking at this. Mike Rounds, W must spread the offense and not play to Penn State's strength. Well, yeah, okay, but they can run too, Mike. So they can run. Understand that. They have, he said, Kalen King, the number 1 cornerback out there. They got linebackers. They have juniors and seniors, and they're top 5 defense. But that's okay. I mean, I understand your point. And you know what? It's a lot easier to run the read zone when you got guys spread out and out there on the perimeter instead of having all in the box. Let me see. To the degree, when you win in the trenches, you normally win the game. Yes, that is true. When you win in the trenches, you do normally win the game, unless you got a quarterback. Like if we go back to the West Virginia Baylor game in Dana Holgerson's first year, 70-63, right? I mean, that's kind of a freak game. So, I mean, I don't know how much – I don't think the trenches was a big part of that game. The trenches is going to be a big part of this game, and for reasons that both quarterbacks are young and both quarterbacks don't have a ton of experience. I'm going to go with the hope that Jordan Leslie is going to put some pressure on Drew Allard, the quarterback. I'm going to hope that, because I think that's what's going to be helpful. Because if you can let him back, if West Virginia rushes 3 defensive linemen like I showed you against Oklahoma State, number 1 is they don't have Dante Stills anymore. All right, so that's number 1. The young guys, they do have Sean Martin, who's pretty much a growing special dude. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to tell you that. But you don't have a Dante right now that's there. You're going to rush 3. So I hope they're going to always bring 4, or usually, depending on the situation. I'm a 4 rush down lineman. Yes, that's what I did. Or somehow 4 rushes. They don't have to be a down, but bring 4 pressure. I don't like 3. But if you go ahead and let Drew Allard stand back in the pocket and see down, he's 6'5". He's not 5'11". He's 6'5". All right, so he's going to be able to look down the field and see that you're in trouble. If you could get pressure, because any quarterback, we've discussed this, any quarterback that has pressure in his face, doesn't matter who you are, you know what I mean? They will get shut down, because if you keep hitting them, they keep remembering it, and Tom Brady, everybody gets rattled if they keep getting hit. All right, so Kenny, I'm here. Sorry I'm late. That's all right, buddy. You can always watch it. The great thing about this show is you don't catch it live. You can catch it on what? Remember that old song? Is it live or is it Memorex? Youngins probably won't know that one either. All right, let's see what I got here next, baby. We got some Neal Brown. I promised it there for you. And what do we have? Let's see. There we go. Neal Brown. Let's get it up.
Defensively, we start.
So let's talk about the defense here. This is his, what he had to say yesterday in the press conference. And I'm going to let him talk and then make a comment or two. And maybe you can get my translation or not. We will see. There we go.
Started slow. Not pleased about that, but I thought we picked it up. Had success in our 2-minute situational work that we did defensively. We created 3 takeaways, which is something that's been a real emphasis for us. I thought these guys kind of had good days. Tried to make some notes for you guys. So Lance Dixon, he had a sack, had 2 TFLs. He's a guy that we need to take a step. You know, he's got a ton of potential, and it's time for that to come through. Hershey McLaurin had his best day of fall camp. He had 7 tackles, had an interception. He would have ran back for a touchdown. And then I thought at corner, Beanie Bishop and Malachi had really nice days. Trey Lathan and Tyreek Austin Cave were around the ball bunch. And then Hammond Russell, he had a TFL, he had a sack. And then Corey McIntyre, true freshman, I haven't mentioned to you all, yeah, he made some plays. And he's got talent, and I think he'll be able to help us at some point this year. Aubrey and Sean Martin and Lee were really limited. They all went, but they were really limited, and that was by us, not by them.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty interesting considering when you think about it, right? What is he talking about there? Let's start off with Lance Dixon. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to get myself in trouble here. I know it, but I have to say how I feel. I even talked a little bit with Coach Bradley about this because he's familiar with obviously everybody from Penn State. Lance Dixon playing the spur position. I'm really going to have to see this to see what he can really do. I can't see him going man coverage, on those slots. Now, the coaches know better than I do. They're there every day, and I could be totally wrong. I'm sorry, but it's a stubbornness in my head that when we played against Minnesota in the bowl game out in Arizona, he had double-digit tackles at the will linebacker position. He's 6'2", maybe a little closer to 6'3". He's 221, 222 to 225. That's tough to run man covers with slot receivers, those little dudes. We're not talking about a tight end here that's spread out from the box. We're talking about some little dudes, maybe they don't go man because of that, but it limits you then. And Lance, I think a lot of him. I really thought that he would be special. We'll see. So again, something to watch. Let's see if that experiment works, and we'll continue on here.
Offensively, got off to a really fast start. Had several explosives, reduced penalties, which has been a point of emphasis too. Turnovers were not good. It's one of those where you're the head coach. You're like, yeah, we had some takeaways. Pretty excited about that. On the offensive end, you're like, we had turnovers, right? So I don't know if you win in those situations, but we got to hold on to the ball better. I thought these guys had good days. Traylon Ray has really had a nice week. He's come on and made some plays downfield, and he's a guy that we're excited about. Preston Fox missed a few days earlier in the week, came back on Saturday, was really productive. And then Cole Taylor had some nice plays during our 2-minute, catching the ball over the middle, so that was good. CJ got some live carries, and I think he's in a good spot. Jaheim White continued to have a good camp, and so he'll play this year. O-line, we rotated guys. Dish didn't play our top 5 or 6. We tried to rotate in and out, just trying to mix up some lineups because that's what happens with your offensive line. And I thought they, communication-wise, were really on point.
Well, all right. Not bad. When you think about the offense there and talking about, the players, I'm thinking right now that the offense looks pretty good running the ball. I think the passing game is something that needs to be worked on. Probably attacking the perimeter is something that they will be able to do, moving the pocket around with the quarterbacks. I don't think that right there is that the pocket pass is right there ready to go. I think that he talks about Justin Johnson a lot being the steadiest here, but see, we might get into that. That might be down the road here. Let's continue on. So you got defense, you got offense, and we'll see what this one is here.
3 full weeks. Is the two deep gone from pencil to pen in many places, or where are you in terms of getting that set?
No, I've got a really good idea, and I say I, but we've got a really good idea who we're going to play and who will start the game at pretty much every position. There's a couple battles that are still going. You know, will linebacker that's going to carry on. You know, who's going to be the 5-0 lineman, and who's going to be in the group that's going to play. The two deep for receiver is going to continue to go through this week. But there's a couple battles just to see, hey, they're going to be in the rotation, they're not going to be in the rotation, and that's why we're going to, you know, that's one position we want to see. That's why we're going to do some teamwork on Wednesday night.
Okay, well that's good. So again, he said the 5 offensive linemen, and well, we know 4 of them. You know about Wyatt Milam. Then you got Nestor there, right tackle, left tackle. Then you have left guard Thomas Remack, young guy, freshman All-American though, really pretty much a stud. Obviously Zach Frazier, and then you're going to look at Jabari, and you're going to look at Brandon Yates, right? And I think those are the two that they're talking about who is going to be in that 5 offensive line rotation. I do think it's important. You can't have 1 weak link, and I don't think that they are. I'm not saying that they are, but I got to see better from both. I'll tell you, he is a very tough guy, and he plays really hard. I think sometimes because he dropped a whole bunch of weight, he lacks a little bit of strength. And Brandon Yates, I think, always had a lot of talent, and I just haven't seen him fulfill what I think he could. There's just something that's been there that's held him back. I mean, he was a redshirt freshman playing left tackle for 2 years, his redshirt freshman sophomore year, I believe. And he still just didn't advance. And, you know, I'm hoping now that he's in that position where he really wants to. Again, what I say about the running, sounds like the running game is in place, but those receivers, that 2 deep competition, I can't believe that they're gelling right now. So they're telling me that they're gelling. You know, it's still work in progress. And also, let's talk about those 3 turnovers. Yeah, he's right. You know, you're like, yeah, man, great job for the defense. Because how many turnovers did the defense get? They were last year in the Big 12 in turnovers. And they are then, so you want to teach that. You want to make that instinctive in them and try to go ahead and force that kind of play. But in the offense, you want some good decision making. And I think that you know, Neal Brown said about good decisions in making for the quarterback, which he's going to talk about here. But I don't think it's quite where it needs to be. Let's continue on.
I want to know about the quarterback. I know who we're going to play. I know who's going to start. I don't know if we'll share that or not. But yeah, that's been decided. So, you know, we just haven't done anything real formal with it, but I think they have a good understanding. And here's the thing: we got 2 really good quarterbacks. Feel good about both of them. You know, one of them's a little bit further ahead, and that's kind of where it is. I don't know if it really helps us to share a whole lot. It'd be different, but I think the team offensively especially has got a good feel for it.
Progress of those guys in the fall you see?
Yeah, really going back to January, I think that it's been a progression. You know, like, and really I think just as quarterbacks, you know, I think I think there's been a progression leadership-wise. There's been a progression from them feeling comfortable in their own skin, and I think that happens with maturity. There's been a progression of fundamentally being able to take the drills that we do year-round and being able to apply those in some pressure situations. They've worked really hard on knowledge of what we're doing offensively. So, yeah, like I said, I'm comfortable. You know, we got to continue to get better. This isn't like, you know, you don't 2 weeks before your first game say, oh, okay, this is it. This is who we are for the rest of the year. You know, there's
Interesting. Obviously, it's a work in progress for both quarterbacks. yes, there's one right now that appears in the staff's mind, Neal Brown's mind, that is ahead of the other at this point. I will say this: I think for both of them, knowing, because he says that they know who the starter is, even though that they haven't announced it. I think everybody else pretty much feels that way the same. But the pressure's off now, and we can start off with Garrett and say, "All right, Garrett, you're in this battle. This young buck was coming up, Nico, this dude with a lot of talent, and you won it in camp." And the 9 months, he just said 9 months previously, so that's really good. And and then Nico, the pressure's off because you're a young buck. You've just been coming in, doing your best to try to run a team when, a bunch of older guys are on that offense as well. Certainly you don't have that type of relationship that Garrett does just for the years that he's been here. So again, and then Neal talks about what is that maybe they play both of them at some point. I go back to the fact that Neal Brown has historically, well, at least at Troy, historically, he wanted his second team quarterback to come in for that third series and a half and to rotate it to change things up. If, they're close enough to do that where it doesn't feel like it would hurt the other or slow down the momentum of the offense. I don't think he's had that with the other quarterbacks that he's had here. I don't believe he's had this option with two quarterbacks that he feels comfortable with. And let's continue on.
Seven, eight.
Yeah, 7. I think 7's where it's at right now. I think the 6 that played last year and Nick Malone has really moved up. And I wouldn't necessarily, not going 1 through 7 with them, but those are the 7. The 6 played last year, and he would be the 7th. And I think there's competition continuing for that other group.
Well, that's pretty good. I got to tell you something. Nick Malone, my son played with him at Morgantown High School. I got to tell you, I'm a bit of a little bit partial to him, and I want to see him play. So he got that scholarship. Really had good young man. I mean, you look for a teammate. Nick Malone's that kind of guy. So extremely happy that he's up in the 7. You got to at least have 7 guys that can play. Now remember, in that 7, all right, because you have a position called center, where they actually have to snap that ball, and you got to have snaps from the gun. And that's really important. So in that 7, not only do you have to have 7 offensive linemen that are capable, you have to have one more guy that can have a guy on his head, be there on a shade or whatever, straight up, and be able to snap that ball. It's an art in itself, and they're usually a lot closer to the line of scrimmage and to the center on that ball. So again, is when you think about that, you got to have at least 7. You want to have 8. Boy, if you had 10, you'd be like total luxury. Like in '88 when we had our lines there, we had 10 guys that could play, and that was a luxury. Don't think you're going to get that in today's day and age anymore. But it's important. Again, Nick Malone, congratulations. Way to come up. You're a fighter, dude. You're a fighter.
Is there a guy or guys it's surprising, or a name that keeps popping up when you talk amongst the coaches that you could think of that's really come up and jumped out at you?
I think Justin Johnson has, I'll talk offense and I'll go to defense. Justin Johnson has been consistent, and he's kind of been through whatever we've had, 15 practices now, just really consistent over the whole time. Got every rep. He's been there every day. And, from the whole standpoint, pass protection, blocking in the run game, catching the ball out of the backfield, all those things, he's been the most consistent in that room.
Well, I'll tell you what, I didn't call him and nickname him Triple J for nothing. And it wasn't Justin Johnson Jr. It was Justin Jump Cut Johnson. So nice to see that what he's doing, because he really could be a difference maker. Let's say you have C.J. Donaldson. Everybody's like, yeah, C.J., yeah, I understand it. I get it. I love, great guy, right? And he's got great talent, and he came out of nowhere. But he's another punch now. You also got Jalen Anderson in there, but, Neal Brown was talking about, he needs to be in shape. Like, he needs to go at like every down. So we know he's not there yet, although it looks like he's still got great talent. Then you got, of course, the freshman Jaheim White, who looks like he might be doing some things maybe away from the running back position, maybe slot, maybe, regardless. But what you see is Justin is turning into a mainstay. And when you talk to Justin, you talk about, hey, you know what else? I'm figuring out that pass protection. That when that comes, that 6-man pass protection for a running back to get involved, that says a lot. And it says a lot about the man that's like, I got to stand in here with this dude coming hard and blitzing. You got to understand, these running backs, they want to run the ball. They got the rock. You know what I mean? They got the rock, and they're feeling good, and that's what you see. But now, when you don't got the rock, it's a whole different ball game. It's not the same game. The glory might not be there as much, or not even the glory, whatever. The thrill of it all, because you got to catch a 230-pound, 225-pound safety, linebacker, whatever. So again, his game is coming on. That is good news, because you need a mainstay. You need someone that can do it all, really. The guy actually has ball skills out of the backfield as well. But did you ever see him jump cut? Cha-cha. Yeah, cha-cha. Right? I don't know if it's cha-cha. I don't know if it's the cha-cha, because I've never done a jump cut, but that's what it is. Pow, pow, right? That's what you got to love that about him, because he can make people miss. All started. I saw that with Barry Sanders. Not saying he's Barry Sanders, but I understand what he's trying to do with the jump cut. And we should have one more.
Defensively, Day Hawkins is much improved. Fatorma has been, I think he's been a pleasant surprise. He really came in shape, which sometimes those guys that sit a semester don't. So that's been a positive. Tomey's coming on. I thought he'd probably be a little further away, but I think he's getting closer to being ready.
I'll tell you what, man.
Defensively.
Oh, my bad. I'll tell you what. Fatorma, Penn State transfer, that he's in shape. Boy, that's huge, because you got Mike Lockhart in there, man. There's not a lot of depth going on. You got Eddie Vestinarian in there, and the interior defense line. You got John Thornton in there. So, I mean, you have there, but you don't have a ton. So, for him to be there, to be able for use, and in a rotational way, that is pretty exciting to me, because you're going to need it. And this first game, you're really going to need it. Did I ever tell you about the first series of you could go all summer camp, and build up, and until you hit that first series of a real game, a real exertion, everything's on fire. Everything, adrenaline is out the yin-yang, right? That first exertion. That's when you catch your breath. After that, you're okay for the season. But that first series, man, I felt like I was having a heart attack. I really did. I thought I was having a heart attack. That was tough. He talked about Tomey, and I'm not going to say his last name, but the transfer for Kentucky. I'm going to break him down tomorrow from his high school film, because he was at Kentucky for a year. I think that young man's got some real ability there. So I'm looking forward to that as well. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Do we got anyone that wants to jump on here? Again, you can jump on. We can talk. You can talk about what you want to do, man. Anyone else? Pod, I see you, man. Let's see. What are you saying here, Pod? What do you want to talk about? I agree. I really think that offense should be called from the press box. Well, that's not going to happen, because obviously Neal Brown's going to be calling plays, and you heard Chad Scott say that he wants to be down in the mix. He has to see the eyes. He has to see it for the communication. So that's not going to happen. Mike Jacobs, I can tell you this, Mike Rowles. Mike Jacobs went ahead, and he was the offensive coordinator for the two 11-0 teams for WVU. And he was always up in the press box. I sat next to him when I was a graduate assistant, and we worked together, him mainly telling me what to do and me mainly listening. And that's where hopefully some of my wisdom has come from. But I'll tell you this, you can see everything up there. I don't know how offensive coordinators call for down there. You have to have someone you really, really trust in the box. You have to have someone that really, really has the eyes to see what's the defense doing. What's that safety doing on that handoff, right? If it's cover 4 and you have the boundary safety coming down right there into the box because he needs to be that extra number in the box, what's going on? That's the eyes you need to see, and if they have that, it can be effective because you see, Lincoln Riley, right? Lincoln Riley is an offensive coordinator, we call play caller. That's a head coach. Now, he likes to throw the ball all over the place. I don't know what you got to see for that, but again, I think there is a value to it. I really do. If I was a coordinator and I had my choice, I would go ahead and be up in the box calling it. Now, when I was a head coach and defensive coordinator at Phoenix College, I didn't have that option, obviously. All right, anyone else here? Oh, classic jump cut, Noel Devine. Well, I'll tell you what. He had classic jump cut, Noel Devine, and then he jump cut, and then he's gone. Ever see Roadrunner? Yeah. You remember that was that Mexican, Speedy Gonzalez. I think it was a Mexican mouse, right? That was Noel Devine, man, because he was so fast and so great of a player. He was fun to watch. He was fun to coach and be on that coaching staff at the time. See anybody else? Anyone else want to jump on now? Anybody else here? As we're closing it down. We're closing it down unless you want to jump on. There we go. So let's get into this here. With the network. Where is it? There we go. Okay, so when I go ahead and we jump into this, and I see the network, there we go. Okay. Now, this is the WolfMan's Call Network. You keep hearing me talk about it. We have to talk about September 2nd. It's an in-house at the Pallet Bar. It is. You can watch it at the Pallet Bar, the pregame for WVU versus Penn State. It's going to start airing at 6 o'clock. The Pallet and Scott Depot. What's up, Haley? How you doing? Shout out to you and everybody else down there and your 24 craft beers that you got. Well, it's going to be a big day. September 2nd, Saturday. I think that it opens well before 6 o'clock. But 6 o'clock, we're going to start broadcasting. And it's going to be in-house. It's going to be on the WolfMan's Call Network, which you see right here. Go ahead and look at that. And we got to go with Archies there in Pittsburgh, East Carson Street. Route 22 Sports Bar up there in Weirton, right on Route 22. Imagine that. And then you have Calacino's Pizzeria and Sports Bar down in Beckley. And you got Cantrell's River City Grille and Pub right in Hinton, West Virginia. And for that 6 to 7 hour, listen up, Hinton, that 6 to 7 hour, they're going for the special, for the WolfMan's Call special, they're going to go ahead and you buy a pint, you get one free. It's only an hour. Get it while you can. All right, then you go up to Cheat Lake, and you go to Legends Sports Bar and Grill, Aaron Gizzy, the links. You got Danny's down there in Princeton. What's up, Paige? Shout out. You got Kegler's, Royalty, WVU, right in Motown, the home of WVU Sports, and Jerry Lorenz, and Dougie, and Steve, and Greg, and all that good stuff. And then you go ahead, you go to the Mason Jar Saloon and Hot Spot, right there, Steve Reese. He's also got the Mason Jar Barbecue and more in Fairmont. So it's all good stuff. I mean, barbecue, man. Unbutton those bridges, baby. And then you got one of my favorite people of all time. And and Mel there at the Mountaineer Tap House, really special there. And they got all kinds of good stuff going on. They cater. And then we head off to, you got Elkins, West Virginia. You got Buckhannon, West Virginia. So good, they had to make two of them. Jimbo's place right there. Yep, Jimmy Pointer, how are you, buddy? Shout out. Brickside Bar and Grill down there in Bridgeport. Rob Davis, love it, man. And, of course, you got to eat local. And, Rob, they got over 30 tap beers. And then you got the Pitch in Dunbar, West Virginia, man. Looks like a really cool place, good food, and good atmosphere. As I said, I got everything there. That's right. So, again, September 2nd, you can either get it watching the Wolfman's Call Network. You can get it at the Voice of College Football. All right. I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to say goodbye for today. I got to tell you something, man. I appreciate it, Mike, and a good show. Yeah, I think it was a good show because it's tough. It is tough to get quality people like a Tom Bradley on a show. Like, I mean, the dude's a professional. Dude knows football. If you couldn't tell, man, it's just you're gifted to listen to their wisdom. You're really gifted. And every time I talk to him, I'm like, I'm gifted. Every time I talk to Steve Dunlap, every time, you could go down the line there and talk about all the coaches, the legendary coaches, Don Neal, and if Mike Jacobs was still alive, God rest his soul. Guys that taught me, Bill Kurlevich, and it just continues on. Dennis Brown, and I can't think of them all, but oh God, man, is guys that affected my life and give me the knowledge and the wisdom to know about football and be able to see it, to hopefully relay it to you. We're not always right. Not always right. If that was the case, then nobody would lose, right? But again, let's go Mountaineers. It is getting time. The clock is counting down. It's too late to worry about what went on in the summertime. It's too late now. It looks like the picks have been made. As they're saying, the pencil is gone, the pen is in, meaning that it's turning into a final thing for the first game for most of the areas. Quarterback situation, Garrett Green, go get it done. Go get it done. You went and you won it. Congratulations. And believe me, you're going to need to keep going. Keep going because, as Neal Brown said, this is 2 weeks before the game or less now. It's just starting. You're going to have to apply the pressure the entire season. You're going to have to be a leader the entire season. Now, tomorrow, we're going to be talking about leadership. I have a nice clip from Kirby Smart about the cost of leadership. We'll talk about. And we'll have some great guests. I know Twisted Rooster's coming on. And Charles Emmanuel. Yeah, Big E. Remember that number one defense in 1996? Yeah, he was a safety there for that. Big E. So, again, we'll have him come on, talk about WVU. We're going to do more. I'm going to break down Tommy. Can't say his last name. I got to go call Big Red Montoro there over at SID for WVU. Trying to figure out his last name, but I do like what he's got. Nobody else. All right, so God bless everybody. Have a great day. The Wolfman's Call is out again. We have a big day tomorrow with, again, Charles Emmanuel is coming on. You got Twisted Rooster. Going to talk SEC. What's going on with that? And all good things. Mountaineers, baby. Have a great day. Here you go. How about a little bit of ZF? What did I say? ZF? Zach Frazier.
Hi, I'm Zach Frazier from Fairmont, and when I'm back home, you'll find me at my local Parmar store.
We have that gold and blue pride at your local Parmar store. We are coming to your neighborhood soon. West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, we have you covered. Download the Parmar app and sign up for the Parmar Rewards Card. Food, gas, groceries, and more, we are gold and blue proud, and we are Parmar stores.
If there's not a Parmar store near you now, there will be soon.
Northern Eagle Distributing, proudly serving Anheuser-Busch products to West Virginia. Stationers, #1 office supplier in West Virginia, always in stock. All many, the anywhere, anytime chargers, powering a connected world. Never buy AA batteries again. Rechargeable 500 times plus. Paul Mini AA USB lithium battery, as easy to charge as your cell phone. Sustainable energy. Stay charged. Go green, save green. Feel the power of Paul. Order now at paulmini.com.
West Virginia United.